The house still stands, a skeletal relic in the deep woods of Maine. The Ashford family once lived there, a mother, a father, and their two children, Elizabeth and Henry. Their story is well documented in police records, in grainy newspaper clippings, and whispered in local bars. The town remembers, even though they wish they could forget. It was October of 1971 when the Ashfords moved into the old house. It had been abandoned for nearly half a century, sitting quietly with its secrets, waiting. John Ashford, a history professor, had purchased it for its antique charm, eager to restore the decaying mansion to its former glory. His wife Margaret had misgivings from the start. She would tell her sister over the phone that she felt something in the walls, something breathing beneath the floorboards. But they stayed. They tried to settle in. The first few weeks were quiet. Then Elizabeth began talking about the girl in the basement. She was 6 years old, prone to wild imagination, but her descriptions were unsettling.
She has no eyes. She watches me from the corner, but she doesn't talk.
At first, John and Margaret dismissed it as childhood fantasy, but Henry, only 2 years older, began waking up in the middle of the night, screaming about whispers in his room. He said they came from inside the closet, from the space between the walls. One evening, Margaret decided to investigate the basement, where Elizabeth claimed the eyeless girl lived. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of mold and something else, something rotten. She ran her fingers along the stone walls, flinching when she felt something damp. Bringing her hand to the dim light of the single hanging bulb, she saw the crimson smear on her fingertips. John dismissed it as rust, but Margaret knew better. Then the knocking began. It was faint at first, a gentle tapping that could be mistaken for the house settling. But as the nights passed, it grew more distinct, deliberate. Sometimes at the front door, sometimes at the windows on the second floor. But no one was ever there. One night, John set up an old reel-to-reel tape recorder in the living room. He let it run overnight, hoping to capture whatever animal or prankster was causing the disturbances. The next morning, he played it back. For the first few hours, there was nothing but the quiet hum of the house. Then, at 3:13 a.m., a voice whispered through the speakers, "Let us in." The voice was distant, warped, as if carried through water. It was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was just wrong. John destroyed the tape. Margaret wanted to leave. She begged him. But John, ever the rationalist, insisted there was a logical explanation until the night Elizabeth disappeared. It was a cold November evening when Margaret woke to find her daughter's bed empty. The window was wide open, curtains billowing. They searched the house, the woods, the roads. The entire town came together, combing the area for weeks. No footprints, no broken glass, just an open window and a child who was simply gone. Margaret fell apart. John withdrew. Henry refused to speak. A month later, the second disappearance. Margaret was the one who found the message scrawled into the wood of the kitchen table. The grooves were deep, carved with something sharp. "Let us in!" Henry was taken that night. John swore he heard the front door open on its own. He ran downstairs, but the house was empty. The wind howled through the open doorway. Henry's footprints led into the forest. They never led out. Margaret lost her mind. She was found in the basement weeks later, rocking back and forth, whispering to the darkness. They took her away, but she never spoke again, never explained what she had seen. John stayed in the house for another year, wasting away, drowning in his grief. Then one night he walked into the forest and was never seen again. The house still stands. The police reports remain open, unanswered. The locals say if you visit on a cold October night, you can still hear the knocking 3 times. Always 3.